Have you ever cared so much for others that you forgot what peace felt like? In the quiet corners of the forest lived a fox, clever, kind, and always ready to help. Whenever anyone called his name, he came running. The birds praised his heart, the rabbits his wisdom, and the deer his generosity. Yet, when night fell, and the forest grew still, he sat alone, tired, unseen, and quietly breaking inside. He believed that being good meant never saying no, until the weight of everyone's needs began to crush the quiet joy in his soul. This is the story of a fox who gave too much of himself to the world. And the moment he finally learned that protecting your peace isn't selfish, it's survival. The fox's mornings began before the sun rose. Every day, before he could even stretch his tired legs, someone was already calling his name. The woodpecker needed help finding insects in the old oak. The rabbits begged him to guard their burrows. The squirrels wanted him to carry nuts to higher branches. And though his body ached and his mind longed for rest, the fox never refused. "Of course," he'd say with a smile that no longer reached his eyes. "I'm happy to help." At first it felt good, being needed, being useful. The forest admired him, and that admiration became his purpose. But slowly, the joy began to fade. No one noticed when his paws were scratched, or when his fur grew thin. No one asked how he was doing. They only came when they needed something, and left when they didn't. As the seasons changed, the fox's days blurred into endless errands. He had no time to hunt for himself, no moments of silence to listen to the wind or rest under the stars. The more he helped, the more they asked, and the more they asked, the more he disappeared. One night, he returned home late, cold, hungry, and exhausted. His den, once warm and neat, had become overgrown with leaves and dust. He hadn't been there long enough to care for it. He sighed, curling up in the corner, his stomach growling. "I help everyone eat," he whispered, "yet I fall asleep hungry." That night, the forest was quiet, but his thoughts were loud. A deep ache settled in his chest. Not the ache of tired muscles, but of a heart stretched too thin. He wondered if anyone would notice if he stopped showing up. Would they even remember his kindness, or just miss what he could do for them? And somewhere deep inside, a faint voice began to whisper, soft but steady. Kindness is a gift, not a duty. You can care for others without abandoning yourself. But the fox was too weary to listen. Not yet. The next morning, the forest was buzzing with noise again. A storm had passed during the night, tearing branches and scattering nests. The fox hadn't slept more than a few hours, yet before he could take a breath, animals began to arrive. The birds chirped frantically, "Fox, please! Our nests are gone." The rabbits cried, "Our burrows are flooded." The deer begged, "Help us move to higher ground." He looked around, their eyes full of trust, their voices trembling with need. His heart wanted to say yes, but his body whispered no. Still, out of habit, he nodded. "I'll help," he said, forcing a smile. Hours passed. His paws sank into mud, his fur soaked in rainwater. Every time he tried to rest, another voice called his name. The fox's heart was kind, but it was breaking under the weight of being everyone's savior. By noon, he collapsed beneath a tree, chest heaving. The forest, for once, was quiet around him. His reflection shimmered in a puddle, eyes dull, fur dirty, shoulders trembling. He didn't recognize himself anymore. "When did I become so tired?" he murmured. "When did helping others start hurting me?" Just then, an old tortoise appeared, slow and calm, carrying a leaf for shade. He looked at the fox and said gently, "You've given so much, little one. But tell me, when was the last time you gave to yourself?" The fox looked away. "That would be selfish," he said softly. The tortoise smiled. "No, it's balance. Even rivers dry up if they forget to rest. You cannot fill every cup while yours is empty." The fox didn't reply, but his chest tightened. He wanted to believe the tortoise, yet guilt chained him. How could he stop helping when everyone needed him? How could he rest when others struggled? That night, as the forest slept, the fox lay awake beneath the stars, torn between his heart's compassion and his soul's exhaustion. For the first time, he began to wonder if saving everyone meant losing himself. The next morning, the fox woke to silence. No voices calling, no cries for help. Just the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle hum of the forest. For a moment it felt strange, peaceful but unfamiliar. He sat outside his den, the air crisp and golden from the sunrise. His body still ached, but the quiet felt healing. Then he noticed something. His reflection in the puddle from yesterday. His eyes looked different, not just tired, but empty. "What have I become?" he whispered. "A helper without a home, a giver without anything left to give." The tortoise appeared again, slow and steady. "Still thinking?" he asked with a kind smile. The fox nodded. "If I stop helping, they'll think I don't care." The tortoise chuckled softly. "And if you keep helping this way, you'll disappear before they ever notice you cared at all." Those words struck deep. The fox stared at the forest, the very place he had poured his heart into. Everywhere he looked, he saw something he'd fixed, something he'd given away. Yet nowhere did he see anything that truly belonged to him. Not a space of his own, not a moment of rest. That evening, when the sparrows came asking for help rebuilding their nests, the fox took a breath and said gently, "Not today. I need to rest." The birds blinked, surprised. "But you always help," one chirped. The fox smiled softly. "Yes, and that's why I must stop for now, so I can help again tomorrow." At first, it felt wrong. He watched the others fly away, guilt pressing heavy on his chest. But as the sun dipped below the trees, he curled up in his den, warm, quiet, finally breathing. Days passed. The forest kept moving, even without him. The birds rebuilt. The rabbits adapted. The fox realized something powerful. The world didn't collapse when he said no. It simply learned to stand on its own. And for the first time in his life, the fox began to feel something he hadn't felt in years. Peace that didn't depend on being needed. Weeks passed, and the fox's world grew quieter. But in that quiet, something beautiful bloomed. He began spending mornings walking along the riverbank, listening to the water instead of voices. He hunted slowly, not rushing to share every catch. He cleaned his den, patching the roof and softening the ground with leaves. For the first time, his little home felt like it belonged to him. Not a stop between favors, but a sanctuary. The forest noticed his absence. At first, the animals whispered, "Has the fox changed? He doesn't come when we call." Some were annoyed, others curious. But over time, something else happened. They began doing things for themselves. The rabbits learned to dig stronger burrows. The birds found safer branches for their nests. The deer helped one another cross the stream. Slowly, The forest that once leaned entirely on the fox started standing tall on its own. One evening, the tortoise visited again, carrying a small acorn in his mouth. He placed it gently before the fox and smiled. "A thank you," he said. "Not for helping, but for resting. The forest is stronger because you finally remembered to care for yourself." The fox looked at the acorn, eyes softening. "I thought they'd forget me if I stopped helping," he said quietly. The tortoise shook his head. "They didn't forget you. They learned from you. There's a difference." That night, the fox lay under the stars, the cool breeze brushing his fur. The forest was peaceful, alive, and self-sufficient, just as it should be. He smiled, realizing that kindness doesn't mean giving until you're empty. It means giving from a place that's full. As the moonlight shimmered across the trees, the fox whispered to himself, "I'm no longer everyone's helper, but I'm finally my own." Sometimes the kindest hearts are the ones that break the quietest. We keep saying yes, not because we want to, but because we're afraid to disappoint, afraid to lose love, afraid to be misunderstood. But peace doesn't grow in exhaustion, it grows in balance. The fox's story reminds us that being available to everyone often means disappearing from ourselves. True kindness doesn't ask you to forget your needs. It asks you to honor them. You can't pour from an empty heart or heal others while you're hurting inside. Saying no isn't rejection, it's protection. It's how you make room for what truly matters. So, slow down, step back, breathe. The world will still move, and those meant to stay will stay. Protect your energy, because the ones who value your peace will never demand you lose it to keep them.